Hello, my name is Peyton Carmichael, and then my two partners. Our topic is the non-discrimination policy. So my agency was Southside Community Center, and my policy, as is listed, Southside Community Center does not and shall not discriminate based on race, color, region, religion, gender expression, age, national origin, disability, marital status, sexual orientation, military status, or any of its activities or operations. These activities include, but are not limited to, the appointment to and termination from its board of directors, hiring and firing of staff or contractors, selections of volunteers, selection of vendors, and providing of services.
My name is Nadia Pierce, and these are my two partners. My site is San Marcos Housing Center, Housing Authority, and I work at the COD Center. My policy is the Fair Housing Act. This says the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination by direct providers of housing, such as landlords and real estate companies, as well as other entities, such as municipalities, banks, or other lending institutions, and homeowners insurance companies whose discriminatory practices make housing unavailable to persons because of race, religion, sex, national origins, family status, or disability.
Hi, my name is Shay Zoltak. My agency is Concho Hearts Hospice. I am out in the Austin branch. For my policy, I did the non-discrimination policy. For my agency, they wrote, "This hospice is an equal opportunity employer and is committed to provide an environment free from discrimination and sexual harassment. This hospice will not discriminate in patient provision of services on the basis of race, color, national origin, including limited English proficiency in primary language. Sex includes but is not limited to sex characteristics, including intersex traits, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex stereotypes. Age, disability, basis of relationship or association, or any other characteristic protected by federal and state law."
Alrighty. So now that we have discussed all of our policies as a whole, I think we should discuss some of the similarities and differences, and just kind of compare those. I feel like all three of our policies, focus a little bit more on like non-discriminatory services, not limiting to, sex, race, gender, and religion. I feel like those were the common denominators and, um, not as many outliers. Um, these guidelines are not limited to, contractors, employees, and other service members, which I feel like was pretty discussed in all three of our policies. I felt like Shay's was a little bit more, patient targeted, um, more of because obviously she had her agency is a bit more like that's what their clientele is. Whereas me and Nadia's are a bit of a bit more of a broad spectrum. Let's see.
I didn't notice that as well when we were going over everything that y'all's didn't mention y'all's patient, which like you said does make sense. Mine definitely did go a lot more into depth when it talked about the patients. I felt as if when it was talking about the employees, it kind of just like glossed over it.
Yeah, I feel like mine also had a specific region talking about like firing of staff of or staff of selection of vendors and volunteers, where I feel like yours was a bit like more targeted for a specific like your clientele, I guess.
Yeah.
Mine basically is for people that are looking for housing since I work at a housing authority. It's more so basically talking about us our agency not discriminating on who can or who can't live here and not allowing our own personal beliefs to interfere with giving getting somebody else housing. So I think it is kind of based on like the other people and not really the employer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I do think that's interesting though, because I think that also ties into like a similarity where, despite us having different organizations, that we all like are gonna face some form of like discrimination, and we need to like have policies in tact for that.
Yeah, I feel like any kind of business needs to have, like, to a certain extent, depending on what service they're providing, needs to have some sort of non-discrimination policy just for a easier flow of operations. It's also just kind of like you're not really going to keep a clientele if you don't have policies in place. Even not just like a clientele, like for your employees, for like the colleague kind of level of emotion, I guess, or relation to be able to work together. I feel like you kind of have to have something set in place for everything to go properly.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all are okay moving on to the next topic, but that kind of ties into one of my reasons why I put my policy is efficient. I said my policy is efficient because it gets straight to the point that no type of discrimination is allowed and offers different types of discrimination, like examples in a way. I feel like a lot of people, like, obviously, like, their thought is like, okay, I'm not going to discriminate, like, obviously, but I feel like as if it's important to have it flat out said it's not going to be allowed, because I just think sometimes it's better to be said than left unsaid.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I Mine is also efficient as well because it does provide a smoother order of operations. The only thing that I feel like it's inefficient at doing is obviously it's kind of hard to focus on it as a whole. But I don't think this specific policy solves the systemic problem of it, and like the negative consequences that follow. I feel like it's kind of hard to target that as one specific agency. But I mean, I feel like all of our policies don't necessarily target the systemic act. But I do like that they're at least having something set in place. Just because as social workers, we have to be able to look at the bigger picture and provide services and helps for our clients, implementing the code of ethics, competencies at the same time as regarding all of our personal biases. Um, did you guys have any other points you'd like to make as well?
Well, I was going to say that what makes my policy inefficient is the lack of enforcement. Like, yes, we have this policy in place, but who's actually enforcing it? Who's actually making sure that these things go without with people are actually getting housing without having to go through discrimination? Because I know right now, before I left for Thanksgiving break, they were having a meeting, a housing meeting, because some of our residents were experiencing discrimination with the people that are higher than us. But so yeah, they were holding like a meeting to basically talk about how they wanted to go about doing things. So I think that they were making although that my policy is inefficient because of the lack of enforcement, I think that my new supervisor is doing a great job of trying to enforce the non-discrimination policy. So, yeah.
I think
I
that's really good.
Yeah, actually, throughout my time serving at my agency, I actually have witnessed a staff member get fired. I don't know, obviously, this like order of procedures that they went about that. I'm sure they had a meeting or a discussion at least. And I don't know the whole story, but I do know that it was in relations to a comment that was made towards a female volunteer. So that is nice to know that it is being implemented and it is like enacted. Um, and it's also just kind of fun to see, not fun, but good to see like how it works and that it is being properly used.
Yes.
Um, Other than that, I think let's see. We can now talk about the code of ethics and how that's implemented into the policies. For me personally, I feel like this targeted dignity and worth of the person and integrity. I don't know if y'all had any other like ones for your agency and your specific characteristics, but
I actually put literally those exact same ones
okay, perfect.
down, especially like worth of a person. I feel like that one is very big.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. Um, yeah, I just feel like with that in it's I feel like these policies are set in place to because I'm obviously I'm sure not everyone in the agency is a social worker, but I'm sure most of them are. And it's nice to see that like despite however long of years of experience they have, that they're still using these policies and implementing them. Um, just because I feel like sometimes you can kind of lose touch, especially if you're in the career field for 20, 30 years. It may not be on the top of your memory. So it's nice to see that these policies like stay throughout.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
um,
also want to add that for the code of ethics, I think that also I did do dignity and worth of a person, but I also think it's kind of a little bit of cultural competence because you have to be willing to understand somebody else's culture and their background and understand that they have certain beliefs in order for you to want to learn and dig deeper. Because when I was doing my interview, my supervisor did say that it's not challenging, but right now they're having to learn more about certain things that people eat, things that people don't eat, their religions, things that they practice, so that that they can provide different services to specific groups of people. So I think the cultural competence is in there also.
yeah, I agree. I feel like cultural competence and non-discrimination kind of go like hand in hand because the whole point of
Yes.
non-discrimination is that you're open to hearing different viewpoints and different perspectives on life and backgrounds and whatnot. It was nice speaking with this about with you guys. Um, and yeah, and I hope to see all of these policies included in our further operations. And it was nice to discuss.
Of
Nice talking.
course. Nice talking with you guys.